blue and the gray were indiscriminately mingled, either motionless and lifeless, or dragging their bleeding forms along in search of some less exposed situation. Captain J. Albert Monroe.
By midday, the battle moved to a sunken farm lane called Hog Trough Road.
That sunken road served as a Confederate defensive line for an attack by over 9,000 Union troops. That fighting there became the next phrase that everybody realizes when you talk about Antietam or Sharpsburg, Bloody Lane.
Our firing was resumed with vigor, and the result was terrible to the enemy. They could do little harm, and we were shooting them like sheep in a pen. The dead and wounded were a horrible sight to behold. As we found them in some cases, they were 2 and 3 deep. Sergeant Charles A. Fuller.
All afternoon, the battle waged at the lower bridge, a beautiful arched stone bridge across Antietam Creek on the way to Sharpsburg.
Ambrose Burnside and his Union troops were faced up against 200 Georgian sharpshooters, who held them at bay, over 9,000 Union troops, for about 7 hours. I can't even imagine what that would have been like for the Georgians. Eventually, Burnside's Union troops were able to force their way across the bridge, and still to this day holds his name. At the end of the day, the sound of gunfire was replaced by the moaning of over 17,000 wounded troops. At the end of the day, over 6,000 men had died here.
Union and Confederate casualties were almost matched, but Lee's decimated army retreated back across the Potomac.
This defeat enabled Lincoln to announce the Emancipation Proclamation, and that in turn dramatically reshaped what this war was about. No longer would there be any talk of settling the war and keeping slavery.
The Antietam National Cemetery was created after the war in 1867, and thousands of hastily dug battlefield graves were disinterred. But only Union soldiers were reburied at the new cemetery, with the remains of over 1,700 unknowns. Battlefield grounds preserved by the War Department were transferred to the National Park Service in the 1930s, which greatly expanded preserved acres and protects its rural views. Monuments are dedicated throughout the battlefield, including the Maryland State Soldiers Monument that honors both Confederate and Union soldiers. Every year, the town of Sharpsburg commemorates the fallen, and memorial services are held at the cemetery.
Antietam is a one-of-a-kind location. It's recognized nationally as the most well-preserved Civil War battlefield in the United States. It's a real crown jewel of the whole park system, and the people in Maryland have done this.
Recently, remains of an unknown Union soldier were found dug up by a groundhog in the bloody cornfield, where it all began at dawn that day, nearly 150 years ago.
The fragments were a part of a leg bone and jawbone and some teeth, and then a piece of leather that looked to be from a boot. This is the first time in the time I've been here that any soldier has been found. So it gave me and the staff here a reason to know why we protect this place on a day-to-day basis.